Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending. Welcome to the Ham, Petersham and Richmond Riverside Community Conversation. My name is Gareth Roberts. I am the leader of the council. Those of you in Ham, Petersham and Richmond Riverside will probably be familiar with a former leader of the council, Sir David Williams. If you just accept that this is rather like Doctor Who, and I'm one of the latest regenerations of Sir David. I have a few housekeeping rules which we may need to just quickly run through. It's all rather tiresome and tedious, but we have to do it, I'm afraid. So, first and foremost, we do have two signers taking part today, and that is Barty and Leslie. And I apologise to them in advance because my style of delivery is rapid and quick fire, and they will have to be keeping up like no one's business. So, event rules. This event is being recorded and will be published after the event on the council website. All attendees, other than the panel, are muted. If you wish to speak or ask a question, I would suggest that the best way of doing this is simply to write question, not the question, but the word question in the chat function. And then we can see who's asking questions in the order that they come in, and we can then just ask you one by one by one. As I say, please don't write the question, because what happens is the chat suddenly becomes full, and I can't spot where the next person is very easily. So if you want to ask a question, just write question in the chat. Let's see. If you do speak, it would be good if you could turn your camera on, as disembodied floating voices are always slightly spooky at the best of times, and on Zoom, we like to be able to see people. Please, all attendees have been sent the event etiquette. We need to remind you that people should be respectful of speakers, and we sure we won't need to, but there is the facility, should it be required, to mute or remove participants, and our event staff will do that. If there are any problems, we'll commute with individuals via the chat or by inviting them into an adjoining virtual discussion. We have joining us today Councillor Andre Fries, Councillor Penny Frost and Councillor Gareth Richards, who are your ward councillors. I'm just taking a quick skim through the attendee list to see if there are any other councillors that I can see in attendance. I can't at the moment, but we may be joined by one or two councillors as it keeps them off the streets of a cold evening. We also are joined by Chris Murphy, who is the ward sergeant for the local area, and Simon Kavanagh, who is the regeneration manager for RHP. This is an interactive event. We're going to be having a couple of presentations, and we also then want to hear some feedback, some questions from you. As part of the entire event, we're asking people to take part in an online survey. You'll be emailed this link after the event, but if you want to take advantage of any sort of bits where you're finding it a bit dull, which I believe me folks, sometimes it will get ever so slightly, then you can find the link to the online survey in the chat function. So what is going to happen now is we're going to have a short presentation, which is all about how the council has been coping during the COVID-19. Is it COVID or COVID? It's a big raging debate at the moment. It's like scones and scones. COVID-19, what the council has been doing and how we've been reacting over the last few months. So if we could run VP.
The first half of 2020 has been an extraordinary period for all of us. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on all our lives. The council has not been immune. The pandemic has brought huge challenges to us and to the way in which we deliver services to residents. Throughout the whole period, we have been committed to providing key services to all residents and help to those who need it most. As a snapshot of some of the things we achieved in just the first month of lockdown alone, we provided more than 6,000 hours of home care. We provided social care for over 1,600 vulnerable adults. We answered over 2,000 calls to our community hub. We provided 47 rough sleepers with accommodation. We delivered over 500 books directly to residents from our libraries and saw a 365% increase in people using our online library services. We had over 42,000 views of our online sports classes. We collected an estimated 47 tonnes of waste and recycling every day. And we kept our 51 schools open, providing education for over 500 children of key workers and vulnerable families. We know that things haven't always been perfect, and many people have been frustrated by some of the lockdown measures that have been put in place, and the fact that some of our services had to stop to ensure the safety of residents and staff. But we've been committed to prioritising those most in need. During this challenging period, I have been blown away by the continued incredible community spirit that we have seen across the borough. The pandemic has brought out the very best in so many of our residents, with neighbours providing a helping hand, the weekly clap for our carers and frontline workers, residents donating to food banks, and the general willingness of so many to go above and beyond in their support for members of our communities. Following a call for volunteers, Richmond CVS received a staggering 3,000 applications from residents eager to help in any way they could. We have seen groups delivering food parcels, setting up virtual fitness classes, checking up on elderly residents that are shielding, and collecting prescriptions. This generosity from residents and local groups has been genuinely humbling. And as we look to the future and towards recovery, we know that there are still huge challenges ahead. The recovery period provides us with an opportunity to make environmental changes that are needed across the borough, and we have already started implementing some of these. For example, we have already started with our post-COVID-19 highway recovery strategy, looking at how we can ensure social distancing, encourage walking and cycling, and ensure our children can get to school safely. Over the next few weeks and months, we will be looking at other ways we can support local communities. And of course, residents will need to play their part in the future as they have done over the last few months. We've worked hard to ensure that businesses have received the funding they're entitled to, awarding a total of £35.79 million to over 2,100 local businesses. But now as our high streets begin to reopen, we all need to make sure that we support our local shops. Many of our businesses are run by local people, and if we don't use them, we will lose them. As we emerge from this difficult period and look towards recovery, we want residents to come on board and provide us with their thoughts and ideas on how we can create a better borough for all of our residents. This moment provides the Council with an opportunity to reflect and improve the way we work and engage with residents, and your support and ideas are key to that. Thank you for coming this evening, and I look forward to hearing from you all.
Okay, so that's just a snapshot of what the Council has been doing over the last few months, and of course looking ahead to the future. What we'd like to do now is to invite the three ward councillors to give an update on any of the issues which they think are live, pressing, or things which they've been up to. So I'm going to take it in reverse alphabetical order this time, as we went first alphabetical. So Councillor Richards. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gareth Richards, one of your ward councillors. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'll be presenting some of the transport-related matters that have occurred during the last year. Firstly, if you came to the community conversation last year, you'll remember the discussion of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, the implementation of which coincided with the introduction of lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. As our road network bounces back to new normal, we hope you notice reduced traffic noise, improved road safety and lower pollution. And we hope this will be demonstrated soon in reduced collisions and a lower number of deaths and injuries on our roads. In March, Royal Parks closed Richmond Park to cars and then to cyclists. It was our belief that shutting the park to cyclists increased the pressure on areas which are less suited to cycling, such as the towpath, and we lobbied Royal Parks to reopen to cyclists as it's a vital commuter route and great for family cycling. Very shortly, the council will be resurfacing Ferrymore Road, Hardwick Road and Riverside Drive. This work's been undertaken on a needs basis. The officers have determined that these roads in Ham are the ones most in need of fresh asphalt. And please continue to point out roads which need fixing, as we can use these reports to direct officers to conduct additional inspections which may cause them to give that road a higher priority. The council has also resurfaced the towpath from Teddington Lock to the boundary zone in Kingston. Unfortunately, we couldn't persuade Kingston to resurface the rest of it. And we've repaired the wooden bridge between Ham House and the towpath. Last year, we submitted a bid for Livable Neighbourhoods Fund. That didn't make it due to the TfL funding crisis. Well, in fact, no livable neighbourhood funds were accepted because of the financial crisis. And I know a lot of people in Ham and a lot of council officers doing a lot of hard work to make that a good bid. But maybe we'll be able to use some of the COVID-19 travel grants to implement some of the features of that plan, such as the school streets, which will encourage our children to walk and cycle to school. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Gareth. Annie, you're up next.
Oh, well, good evening, everybody. I'm Councillor Penny Frost. I've been a Liberal Democrat councillor for 6 years now, and I also hold the position of Chair of Education Children's Services for the council. I hope you'll agree with me that I'm very active locally, but I also have a strong interest in education and school performance and special needs. And tonight I just wanted to say a few words about our local schools, particularly during lockdown, because we are rightly so proud of all that they've been doing. You'll know that our mainstream schools have been open consistently through the whole of the lockdown, from March right through Easter, through half term and onwards. And they've been building up their school-based offer so that as many children as possible have benefited from their time in school. And they've been developing a range of most innovative and engaging models of remote learning, and supporting parents who've discovered their hitherto unknown talents for homeschooling. And if you're one of those parents, then congratulations and pat yourselves on the back. Meadlands, Russell and St Richard's schools, our 3 primaries, have supported a high uptake of eligible children and beyond the key year groups, with increased numbers of children on site. At the same time that they've been building up effective home learning. They've been relentless in reaching every pupil and family on a regular basis, phone calls, online class meets, assemblies and so forth. Strathmore, our special school, which on 2 sites, one attached to the Russell and one attached to Greyport School, has worked tirelessly with parents and carers and pupils to ensure that the children and young people have continued to benefit from the high quality education that they have on offer through their in-school and their blended and their remote learning. And Greycourt, our secondary school, has received enormously high praise from parents for the way that they've provided very high quality teaching online, and now of course also face-to-face with the key year groups that they've brought back in. And I would say that all the schools have had to do very careful and time-consuming individual risk assessments for all of their pupils to ensure that they can be safely brought back into school. And a shout out to the German school in Petersham. It's an international school, so it doesn't come under the council, but I'm so pleased to say it opened its kitchens immediately on lockdown to the wider community, and it joined the Social Kitchens project and provided thousands of meals for inner London families, and it also linked up with Ham SOS to provide meals for local families in need. So well done to all of our schools. I'm really proud that we've got them in our ward. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Penny. And Andre, you're up next. Oh, you're muted. Can somebody unmute Andre, please?
There we go. That should be. Oh, no.
No, you're there. You're on. You're
I think I'm live now. Yep, good. Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Councillor Andre Fries. On a personal note, I started off during lockdown, like many people I'm sure I know in our local community, supporting the Ham and Petersham SOS and also Rules, which is a charity for people with disabilities over the river in Teddington, to do did a lot of shopping for vulnerable people who are unable to get out for themselves. And I spent most of April doing that, probably 2 or 3 times a week.
Andre, we've lost you. We lost you at 2 or 3 times a week. See, this is where all the people in the back room at the council are now frantically trying to re-establish connection with Andre Fries. Oh, apparently, always her Wi-Fi connection, apparently. Okay, we'll just stick the Potter's wheel up for a few minutes. Can we do that? No, there's one for the teenagers. Well, what we shall do now, when Andre's back with us, we'll give her the opportunity to give the ward councillor update. I know from the Zoom group chat that at the moment we don't have any questions. Now, this is going to be a short evening, folks, if we don't have any questions to ask your councillors or issues which you wish to raise. So I'm sort of scrolling through in case anybody's been slightly off-piste and is using the raise hand function, and I can't see any of that. So, did I see Andre back? Oh, Howard Chester. Yeah. Howard Chester, come on down. Andre, we'll come back to you in a minute. We'll do Howard Chester, then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Excellent. Here we go. Thank you very much.
I'm unmuted, am I?
Yeah, you are. You are the US Cavalry in human form.
Okay. Thanks very much. Well, I'd like to thank the councillors for their presentations, and I think probably it's particularly a question at the moment for Councillor Richards. You mentioned the school safety streets and the possibilities of increased work on those. I mean, I'm particularly concerned about the Russell School. I mean, those of you, I mean, most people will be familiar with the parking situation around the school during the normal times, when it's incredibly densely parked up, presents considerable danger, I think, to children going to school, and particularly if we want to increase and to encourage the number of children to be walking to school and cycling to school. At the moment, to do that to the Russell School presents quite a danger. The vast majority of children enter on the Meadlands Drive entrance, which is totally parked up on both sides of the road, and similarly down Clifford Road. And I just wondered what, how far we are with plans to make any improvements in that area.
Could somebody unmute Councillor Richards for me? If I could remind councillors who are on the panel not to unmute themselves, but sit there in glorious silence if they've got anything to say. So otherwise, I keep having to ask for you to be unmuted.
Well, a school street round the Russell School would block the roads adjacent to Russell School from. Well, it would put a filter so that only people who lived there could actually drive their cars during those times, and that would reduce the the traffic in that area and make the road safer. And it's up to, if we have the support of Russell School, then that's something that. And any Russell School governors here would like to, who are on the chat would like to see that. We need sort of school involvement to make that happen.
Can I just come back on that? I think possibly the use of the word of the phrase sort of school streets might not be actually the one that I'm looking for. I don't know really exactly what that implies. But I just think that the the parking situation particularly on Meadlands Drive is frankly ridiculous. There are houses on one side of the road and the copse is on the other side, and yet the side with the copse during school time is totally parked up, and that's largely, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that's largely due to the fact that people working at the German school park along there because the German school doesn't have provision for its staff to park. You know, I obviously this must affect residents considerably as well. So perhaps it's a broader question than just the school street.
Yeah, the usual way of solving parking conflict like that is to bring in a controlled parking zone for that area. And there was a petition in the last 2 years. There's been a petition, but it didn't gain sufficient support. But that's not to say that if someone had a petition for a controlled parking zone now, that they couldn't get they couldn't get support. You can't just. I think what seemed to happen last time there was a petition was someone asked for a petition was made, and they made no effort to attract people to get signatures to that petition.
Yeah.
So it takes a little bit more community involvement than to just ask for a petition to get a CPZ.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Andre, you're back with us. The Wi-Fi is reconnected. You've got 50 pence in the meter. Good.
Okay.
So I think we've got to 4 to 8 weeks. I think you said something like.
Yes. So I think sort of. Sorry, going back to, as I said, my mother passed away, so I had about 4 weeks, a month when I was very much not involved in life generally. But since then, we've been, I think, as the ward councillors have been dealing more with sort of our community coming out of lockdown. And one of the particular problems that we had was some antisocial behaviour and people weeing and pooing in public, pretty much around. Sorry to use such language, but around Ham Common, we had a problem with that, and we had a lot of chat with the landlords at the New Inn, where after they'd opened up, and I'm not saying that their customers were doing it, but there certainly seemed to be an association with people drinking on the common and then using parts of our lovely green area and streets as open latrines. And the New Inn did open up their toilets as soon as possible. We did try and relay to people not to use open spaces as toilets, but I know there wasn't just an issue in Ham, and it was an issue across the whole borough. And I know that the council has worked hard is now currently reaching out to all the different areas, the different businesses who open up their toilets to the public, to allow them to continue to do that, and actually to get more businesses to do that. The other issue that has come up very much has been the new contractors who have been collecting the waste in the borough, and there has been issues with streets being left, not certain addresses being left off, which we have continued to pick up and continue to address, and we now hopefully are coming out of that side where homes are no longer being missed off. There is a continuing issue with the perception. So sometimes there seems to be an issue that food waste is being put into the wrong bin, the wrong waste stream on the back of the van. And I've had direct communication with Serco themselves, and on occasion this has happened where food recycling has gone into the wrong waste stream, and they have made it very clear that they will take out sanctions against those staff who continue to do that, because it is entirely unacceptable. And Richmond Borough is very, very keen, and as a Green Councillor, I'm incredibly keen that we get our food waste recycling up. But at the same time, there are occasions when the waste has actually gone into the right stream. It's just the design of the vans make it look as if the bins have been emptied into the wrong place. But we are on top of it. Please do keep emailing us if it's a continuing problem. We will get to the bottom of it and we will get it stopped. So don't worry, we are not taking our eye off the ball on that one. Thank you, and
Excellent.
Thanks for your patience with this, with the new contractors.
Thank you, Andre. It's much appreciated. Good. Okay, so we've got some questions in the chat, which is good. We always like this. We're going to have about another 10 or 15 minutes of questions, and then we'll have a presentation, then we'll get back to some more questions. So if we can, questioners, keep it tight. And councillors, with the responses, keep it tighter. And then we can get through as many as we can possibly do. So Adam Gatehouse. So questions rather than speeches is the order of the day. So questions from Adam Gatehouse. Off you go.
Hello. Yeah, I have a question regarding the proposed foot and cycle bridge between Ham and Twickenham. We, or at least those of us who receive those emails from Sarah Olney, which are very welcome, I must say. She sent, as are yours, Gareth. Both of them really, really welcome. And we all received an email in which she put her win behind a proposal for £20 million towards this bridge, and we a group of us from Twickenham and Ham recently met earlier this week, and we had some very pertinent questions regarding the bridge. And while we welcome anything that will help pedestrians and cyclists, particularly in this time, we had some severe questions about the location of the bridge, the proposed, at least in Sarah Olney's email, the proposed advantages for transport facilities for residents of Ham. She said it would open up transport facilities in Twickenham for residents of Ham, which we questioned. We had questions about the better access to Richmond Park from the residents of Twickenham, because actually it's equidistant from Twickenham as it is from Richmond Gate is equidistant from Twickenham as Ham Gate is from Ham, and the repercussions on Hamerton Ferry. So I would just like to know what the council's views are on the bridge and where we are with those proposals.
Okay, hot potato time. The bridge. Who fancies to go with this first?
I'm happy to.
Andre, come on.
Okay. The bridge. Okay. I'm not. I don't sit on the team, which I know Gareth does, so I'm slightly jumping the gun here. I just want to give a bit of background to this money, because there's people going. Residents are questioning where this 20 million is coming from. This money is being promised by the government. Robert Jenrick, Minister for Communities, Housing and Local Government, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, put out a question to local council saying, bring me your shovel-ready projects that are big infrastructure ones that we can invest and support communities in that way. He asked for bids, and the council responded very quickly and put in a bid for a potential bridge. So this money is government money, it is not local council money. So that needs to be made quite clear at this early stage, because I think, and rightly so, people are wondering where this money is coming from, but it is not council money, it is local, it is central government money. Secondly, he asked for shovel-ready projects. I would say that either of the proposed bridges in the different locations are neither shovel-ready. One is further along than the other. But I am also, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of concern, rightly, about locations and the sense that we are steamrollering this through. There is no sense of steamrollering at all. It was a very, very quick response from a sort of a very, very short period of time to get the bid in. And I think the council is well getting it in, but I would say that there are many years from here on in, if we were successful, and it's a big if, before any bridge got built, and there'd be plenty of consultation and plenty of time for everyone to put in their views and make sure that we got the right bridge in the right location if one is to happen. And I'm not saying that it is, and that's where I will stop there. So over to you, Gareth.
Thank you, Andre. Either Penny or Gareth. If everybody answers all the questions, we'll be here all night. Either of you wish to make a point?
I wouldn't mind just coming in very quickly on this, because this is something, you're right, it is a hot potato. It's something I think which appeared to have been a bit further down the line than is actually the case. So this has concerned a lot of local residents, because they thought something was imminently about to be built, which they hadn't been consulted on. So many of us who, and I know I've spotted some people from Friends of Ham Lands, for instance, in tonight's audience. And I know that they have considerable concerns about an additional bridge being built, which will affect Hamlands because of the extraordinary ecological uniqueness of Hamlands, which we do have to be very aware of, although obviously it's important to keep links across the river. And maybe we need to look more at ensuring that Teddington Lock Footbridge is doing its job for us as well.
I think if I may just say very, very quickly, I think our concerns are we welcome anything that helps cycling and walking, but we question whether a second footbridge so close to that at Teddington Lock is necessary, and would any money that is coming not be better spent on improving the infrastructure that is there already, the towpath and the cycling paths and cycling lanes, and particularly Teddington Lock, and making it open for cyclists.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very much for your question. We will now move on to Matt George.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. So I'm the chair of Ham Parade Market in my spare time, and Andre and Penny are painfully aware of this. Hello. Just a very quick question, which you may not be able to answer now, but maybe a request, I suppose. We want to start Ham Parade Market up again, 1st of August. We've applied to the council for permission to do that. The licensing team have given us the okay, but the highways team, things seem to have stalled there. So what are we? It's the 8th of July now. The more time we have to get the word out, to do posters, to do marketing, the better. And we're just waiting on the council, really. We just need a decision. So I was wondering if you could stick a rocket up highways and sort it out for me, if that's all right.
This feels awful. I'm used to be the one answering the questions. Who wants to put the rocket up highways? I mean, yes, I can, but who wants to put the rocket up highways?
We all will.
We just take it as read that everybody will put the rocket up highways because everybody wants to see the market reopen. I saw Brandon Edwards clapping away at the idea of it being reopened. So yes, we can put a rocket up. Thank you. Okay, Mary Russell.
Yeah.
Hello.
Social care. I know we don't have homes in Ham, but we have residents that are in social care. It's been very difficult to get any data or information about what the council spent, the council involvement, as well as the care homes. So can you say it's really about how to get information about how things have gone for our residents? And I haven't been successful yet in trying to find out.
So this is a question about how care homes have performed across the borough?
Yes, across the borough, but particularly there are our residents in Ham and Petersham, yes, all that. But it's a question, and seems to be no information as far as I can find out. So I'm just interested, very interested.
Okay. Is anybody aware? Penny, Gareth, Andre?
We have the, well, if you want to know how many excess deaths, we have the Data Rich website, which has a breakdown of all the deaths in Richmond by care home, hospice, and hospital over the COVID period.
That's a Data Rich website.
I can.
Mary, have you got access to email?
I can put that on the chat, or
yeah. If you have access to email, if you email any of your ward councillors, they'll happily give you the link to the Data Rich, and it's very useful, and particularly now that everybody's an absolute expert on pillars 1 and 2. Until last Monday, nobody knew that pillar 2 existed, but there we are. So yeah, if it's okay to enter into email answers on this, would that be okay?
Fine, thank you.
That's lovely. Thank you for your question. I have Justine I. Who has a question?
Hello.
Hello. Oh, hello.
It's Justine.
Is that an L?
Justine Langford.
Justine, it's an L. There we are.
Yeah. L, yeah.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, so I was following actually Howard Chester's question, which was the first one. I'm aware that the reduced capacity on public transport and also, worryingly, the requirement for children to pay for bus journeys has the worrying potential of increasing use of cars and the associated congestion and pollution. And you know, if anything, what the recent events have told us, I think, is a real awareness of our environmental fragility and the need to rethink how we do things and how we travel, including how we travel. And also concerned about that the loss of children's free travel on buses has an influence on their independence and formation of travel habits in an early age. So I'm very concerned about that in particular. So I welcome the idea of school streets, you know, to make it safer around the entrance to schools. But I'm wondering, what are you doing to help children get to school safely by walking and cycling, particularly come September when that free travel on buses will no longer be available to them?
Okay. Who fancies to go at this one?
Well, Gareth's our cycling champion, so I'm sure you'll have something to say about that.
Well, we are hoping that if we encourage more people to cycle, then that will create a more cycle-friendly street scene. But the council has done some sort of big work in sort of Kew Road, sort of making a cycle lane there. But there's plenty of, and it's very difficult to sort of fit any cycle route sort of round Ham. That's the unfortunate bit. But we could look at doing some school streets in the near future.
Could I also just cut in and mention that schools all have to have travel policies, and that's one of the things which I know they do work on very actively, and I think they will be even more so once schools bring their pupils and students back into school, because the active travel is such an important element now, and children's fitness. And I think they'll all be looking at their travel policies very carefully to make sure that they are promoting cycling and walking to school as much as they possibly can do. Another thing to bear in mind, actually, with our schools, especially in Ham and Petersham, is that we have fairly tight areas where children are drawn from, particularly for our primaries. So it does make it more possible to think in terms of walking and cycling. Parents don't have to drive their children to school because those the routes are relatively short to get to the schools.
In addition
Yes,
to that,
of course, Justine.
I just wanted to say that I know that as a council that we have written to the government or to the mayor asking them to reconsider the taking away of the free transport for the under 18s. I don't know that we're certainly not the only council to do that, and I know others have as well. And I do hope, I think there is still potential there that they haven't really mentioned that as much lately as they have the issue of sort of the freedom passes being changing freedom passes for certain timings for that. But I do think it is a short-sighted thing to take away the free transport for the younger people. I mean, it's very difficult, bad timing for that. But there is a general issue that at the moment capacity on our buses is so much lower on the single deckers going around Ham, the 371. You can only get 10 people on there at the moment because of social distancing rules. And I do think we're going to have to look very carefully and work with TfL quite carefully come September about how we start getting our young people back on buses and how we start getting them transported. And it is a worry that we are looking at seeing what's now been called a car-led recovery. and our streets are now almost as full again as they have been. I think the council needs to be doing as much as it can to be encouraging, putting in more the bike infrastructure as much as they can, like they've done on the Q Road, but we need to see that happening much more across the whole borough, and particularly around our schools, to encourage safer spaces for all our young people and families.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andre. I think, really thinking about how children get to school, maybe the schools could also think about route planning with children, for instance. If children haven't cycled before, that might help them think about how they actually get from their home. And I appreciate, Penny, that a lot of the schools have, especially primaries, have small catchment areas. But Greycourt is a very large school and has a much larger catchment area, including North Kingston. And the Petersham Road, Richmond Road, is a fast and busy road, and there are not many places to cross. And I think there are definitely potential from ideas from the Livable Neighbourhood bid, and the potentially the making Ham Street a much more safer place to be, that could be used to make safe routes for children to cycle to school.
Okay, thank you for that. Right, I'm going to take one more question, and then we're going to have another presentation, which is about the local area funds from Penny. Catherine von Schubert. There we go.
So, yeah, my question follows directly on really from Justine. What is preventing us from having a dedicated proper cycle lane along Petersham Road, despite its narrowness? There are, why can we not join up with Kingston's just the other side of Ham Parade, and at least have some, even if it's token at this stage, more kind of assertion on this issue, because it's just critical. And I think the idea of Justine's idea about Ham Street and Sandy Lane, these are the three main roads to schools in this area. Why can we not start very quickly marking out cycle paths, and at some point build a proper dedicated one with a slight curb, which will actually protect people? I think we're being very slow and very short-sighted. So on the back of that question is, who do we start lobbying? How do we bring momentum for this to happen? Thank you.
Okay, Gareth Richards, you're the cycling champion for the council.
Well, you can start by lobbying the active travel group, which are meeting next week.
Can you share the details? Can you please share the details with these things on the chat and/or emails follow up?
Yes, of course.
For sure.
Does anybody wish to have any further point on that?
And yeah, we'd love to do more. We're limited in the officers would like to build sort of, the officers in the past have wanted to build really, really good cycle routes and have required that the roads be really wide to accommodate them. I think your idea about sort of having smaller ones, having sort of less ideal ones, is something that they would probably not wish to go for at the moment, but may be necessary.
On what basis would they not go for it, even if it's just a marking? Because that kind of gives legitimacy to cyclists. Well,
the markings are just too much of a they're just ignored by the car drivers. They're just sort of a token. They're a token gesture. What people really want is sort of physical separation.
Well, it works in Kingston, although as soon as you're past Ham Parade, there's all the way from there for 2 kilometres, there's a cycle lane, and okay, it's not got it's just markings on the road, and one side there is.
I've never felt safe enough on that cycle lane to.
Yeah, but whether you do or not, it is a legitimate cycling lane with a legitimacy, and that's the way we have to start.
Okay, I mean, I would, just to defend the point that Gareth was making, I've sat in many of the active travel groups, and Richmond Cycling Campaign, all of the cycling campaigns will just describe a painted line on a pavement as that, a painted line on the pavement, which offers no protection at all. So we are committed to ensuring we get better cycling facilities within the borough. The one thing which I thought Gareth was going to say in terms of we're limited by officers, because we're limited by the numbers that we have. And we have 18 wards, all of them clamouring for something to be done at the moment. So we are hoping to get around as many as possible. Okay, so we are now going to have, there's a thing which you may have been hearing about, the local area fund, which is going to be some cash, which is going to be, you know, scattered with munificence and largesse upon the ward. So don't get excited. It doesn't take to peacock and ivory by any stretch of the imagination. But Enya, I understand you're going to be taking us through this.
Thank you. Oh. Okay, so you should see on your screens now the local area fund as which is being introduced as part of our community conversation, and that in a moment that's going to come up as a slideshow, I think, so that we can start to look at that.
I think it's there. It's sort of hidden slightly. There we go.
What we that's looking good. That's looking good. Okay, so the could we go on to the next slide then, please? Right. So you'll see from this that the role of the local area fund is intended to support community-driven projects, and this is going to improve the quality of life and the well-being of our local neighbourhoods. And it's focused particularly on projects which will take place in individual wards, although it can spread across other wards as well. Next slide, please. We have the next slide, please. So we're looking for ideas, basically. So ideas that might enable local people to develop, agree and deliver their own responses to local issues and build stronger communities. So we've been hearing a little about that this evening already. Making public places more attractive, enjoyable and distinctive. And that would certainly have resonance in Ham and Petersham, because we have so many times we've won gold in London in Bloom, and we're runners up for Britain in Bloom. So we certainly know how to make our public places attractive, enjoyable and distinctive. And also local initiatives which will address the causes of climate change, minimise environmental impact of carbon waste and pollution, which we have signed up, obviously, as a council, that this is that we want to ensure that we are doing our bit as part of the Global Climate Initiative. Can we see the next slide, please? So we're looking at ideas to promote vitality in our town and neighbourhood centres, participation in sports, physical activity, enhancing the artistic and the cultural offer, and protecting our borough's heritage. And again, in Ham and Petersham, we've got some we have got some real heritage in our buildings around Ham House and around Ham Common, and we have many opportunities to improve health and well-being as well with our open spaces. We want to help to prevent crime, although I have to say we are a very low crime area, and to improve our community assets in the physical realm. Could we have the next slide, please? So who can be funded? So the groups which could put themselves forward are charities, not-for-profit organisations, could be informal or unconstituted groups, or individuals with a good idea, but the project mustn't be for their personal benefit, or businesses, and again the project must be not-for-profit and it has to be a benefit to the wider community. Could we see the next slide, please? So we're asking for your bright ideas, and you'll see there is a link for you to share your ideas online. That will come to us as your ward councillors, and also to the officers who are involved with the local area fund. So basically, as we start off this local area fund, we're looking for everybody to put your bright ideas into this this sharing online option. Can we see the next slide, please? So what's going to happen when you do share your idea? So the first stage is that you might want to discuss with us. You might want to come and chat to us, either virtually or soon. I hope that we will be having an opportunity to have our councillor surgeries again. But so we can all chat over how that would fit with local priorities. And there's a link there to, if you want to find out the contacts for us. Then the next stage is your idea is being firmed up a little bit, so you're going to share it online, and you would go to the link which is given, the richmond.gov.uk local area fund. Then we would get, as ward councillors and officers, we would be looking at your ideas, and at that point there is also an opportunity for officers to have a look and say, well, you know, maybe this is a local area fund application, but there are also signposts which our officers could help with for you to find another source of support or funding for your area. So, so it's important to remember that there are many different ways in which good ideas and projects can be funded. And our officers who are working on this will have all that knowledge and information, as indeed does Richmond Council for Voluntary Service. But we are also concerned as ward councillors, because we know that Ham and Petersham has very strong local groups which are involved with a great number of local initiatives. You know, Ham and Petersham Association, Ham United Group, we've got a neighbourhood forum, and we have so many opportunities to share ideas more widely, to hear from our local community leaders, to see what they think about how we would be looking to sort of shape projects and ideas for our local area, for this local area fund. And of course we also have, because we have got a neighbourhood plan, we've also got all the work that's gone into the shaping the neighbourhood plan. So we need to make sure that ideas which we might be considering are in line with the priorities which are set out by the neighbourhood plan. Then at stage 4, if the idea is suitable for the local area fund, you would then have an opportunity to submit a rather more formal application. And once the completed application has been submitted, we would aim to make a decision within 8 weeks on this. But we hope that all, you know, that nobody will miss out on the stages 1 to 3, because that is where you have an opportunity to really shape your ideas in line with our local priorities. So let's go through those stages carefully and thoughtfully before anybody is actually thinking that they're ready to put their completed application in. Can we have the next slide, please? And then on this slide, you can see, first of all, the opportunity for you to discuss your idea will be through contact with your ward councillors. Opportunities to find out what other local support in your area might be. You've got the members of the community engagement team whose details are set out there. And for advice and guidance then on making that important application for the local area fund, Harriet Steele, who is the Senior Project Officer in the voluntary sector, who will be giving a lot of advice and guidance here. And there are, of course, hard copies of all these materials available, because not everybody is able to easily access making applications through a website. So we do recognise that as well. So that's the process. We're right at the start of this process at the moment. So we're ready and we're keen to hear your ideas so that we can get a sense of the sort of projects which you would like to put forward. The total pot is £10,000, and we've been promised that this will be made available within the ward annually. So there's money there which could be for a small number of large projects or a large number of small projects, but that's really for us all to get a sense of what's out there, what your ideas are, so that we can move forward and get more of a sense of how to handle this local area fund, which is really very, very exciting for us as councillors, and we hope for you all as our residents. Thank you.
Okay, so there you are. I mean, I appreciate that many of you may be sitting there thinking that £10,000, that's a bit tight. But we have 18 wards that we need to cover, and even my CSE grade 1 mathematics will tell me that's 180 grand a year, which is rather more exciting in terms. So get hold of Penny, get hold of Gareth, get hold of Andre, let them all know. Probably very useful to copy them all in to your suggestions, because then nobody gets lost, nobody gets missed out. Because I take it from me, I know how difficult it is to cope with a councillor's inbox. So they're your first port of call. Start getting the thinking caps on ready, and we will now return to the excitement of the questions, which is what we're all here for, really, rather than just reading out things. So Sophia Welsh, you have a question.
Hi. My question was about maintenance of public areas, particularly the green verges down Sandy Lane. They don't seem to have been maintained during lockdown, and the grass is really long now. There's also a lot of graffiti locally on bus stops, street signs, and the green boxes. And I just wanted to know what was being done about it.
Excellent. Now I know that, Gareth, you answered the last one. I know that Andre will probably have lots to say about the benefits of the long grass and pollinators and stuff like that. So here you are. This one is tailor-made for you.
Thanks. Thanks, Gareth. Yeah, I have actually. This has been risen. Somebody's asked me about it on email, and I have taken up with our Parks Department. At the beginning of coronavirus, during lockdown, obviously there were issues with staffing, and decision was taken to minimise the cutting of verges, partly because of reduced numbers of staff, getting people working from home, keeping everyone safe. That is changing, and people are coming back to work, have been coming back to work for quite some time. But there has been a decision that is being looked at, has been a decision taken, but there has been discussion about the fact that it is better to leave the verges unmown. We have had compliments about it, saying how much nicer it looks, and it is definitely better for our biodiversity. The main issue is if there are problems with sight lines, if you cannot see getting your car in and out of your driveway or trying to drive down that particular road, let us know and we will get it looked at. Apart from that, they are trying to leave it because it is better, and also they've had to stagger their work process. In terms of graffiti, this is an ongoing problem, very frustratingly. Seemingly those people who do like to graffiti haven't stopped during coronavirus. So there is a site online where you can go and put up any issues of graffiti, and our team will deal with it very quickly. Otherwise, go onto Twitter. The handle, if you are on Twitter, is LBRUT_help. You can I use that regularly for fly tipping, graffiti, anything like that, and it gets dealt with very quickly. Ultimately, but if you go back to the website, you will find that there is links there to help you get through to TfL or to PT to report the graffiti online to them there. Unfortunately, the police, we do have the police representative, local neighbourhood representative on here. He might have a word to say on the issue of graffiti.
Yes.
Passing over.
That's an excellent idea. So let me see. So Chris Murphy, if we could unmute Chris Murphy, if he's
I think you'll be able to hear me now. Good evening, everybody.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, so with regards to graffiti in the Ham area, it is an ongoing problem. We've had little to no success in identifying the individuals involved, despite a borough-wide check on similar tags. The feeling is that there's a group of people who seem to enjoy this as a pastime, leisure activity. They're not actually just the kids who go to school. It's an older bunch of people. Beyond that, we've had very little success with dealing with this particular problem. I'm aware it's been an issue raised a number of times at the police liaison group, which meets quarterly. I'd like to say I had a better answer than that, but I really don't. Unfortunately, we will continue to stop and search those who look as though they're going equipped to do this sort of stuff. At the moment, I can't say any fairer than that, other than if you see someone causing criminal damage or have any information as to people who might be involved, we would very much appreciate a little nod in the right direction, either via Crime Stoppers, via 101, or via the website, whether you can report antisocial behaviour directly.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Chris. I mean, I know it's one of those things, but the honest answer is often the best answer. You know, if the information and the intelligence isn't there, then it's very difficult to act. But thanks very much.
Always come to me for brutal honesty.
Yeah. So, just a note of housekeeping, everybody. I see that there is a question from Yolanda Bryant. We're not going to go to Yolanda yet, but that question, which was submitted at 7:18, will probably be the last one we'll have time for, because we've got a bit of a backlog going on here. So if you write a question afterwards, then you won't be guaranteed, but I will finish with Yolanda's one. So we now move to Florin Borley.
Hey, good evening, guys.
Hey, Florin.
I have I will have 3 questions, short and sweet. Question number 1, Riverside Drive, can speed bumps be installed there? Because despite the 20 miles per hour limit, lots of people are not respecting that. Question number 2, would it be possible to install more CCTV in the area? Question number 3, can we have this type of meeting as a recurring one? It's a great idea, by the way.
Thank you. So, who wants to do you want one each?
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Who wants to take the speed bumps in Riverside Drive? Go on, don't all rush at once.
Well, I'll do speed bumps if you like. I think there's probably not a lot of appetite now for putting in speed bumps. I know what you mean about this. That wide stretch of Riverside Drive. I can having lived there 40 years, and my back gate opens out onto that road. It's nothing like as bad as it used to be, and I will say that for it. But it's you do get a few boy racers going around there, and I wish they wouldn't, because it is dangerous. But the problem of speed bumps is that they're expensive to put in. They can damage people's cars. They're generally now, I think it's felt that they can affect air pollution because of the particulates from car tires which come off speed bumps. So I think for quite a while now, people have not been keen to put in speed bumps. We could look at a bit more road narrowing there, perhaps. But it doesn't take it doesn't carry a lot of traffic.
Okay. Who wants to tackle the availability? Is there any specific areas you're thinking of, Florin, for the CCTV? Obviously, we don't want to be some sort of other state.
No, I'm just asking that because I've noticed that during this, challenging situation, challenging time, there were more cases where the police was asked to come because of break-ins, or just different people that were trying their luck because, well, it's a more remote, especially in Ham, it's more remote than the other areas. So usually, I would say usually around shops, or where you have any parades or any.
Okay. So who fancies that? Gareth?
Well, I'm not aware that we have any. I know we have the police. Maybe they could correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not aware of any sort of public CCTV that we actually have in Ham.
There are 2 cameras, I can tell you, next to Tesco Express in St. Richard's.
Ah.
Oh.
Yeah. But those are and one close to the BP petrol station next to the Kingston.
Yeah, they'll be protecting their assets there, Florian. They're probably not.
Yeah, but you can't just put you can't just. It's not the cost of the cameras. You need someone to maintain them and to monitor them.
Yeah,
and that's generally what's prohibitively expensive in installing the CCTV. Other than unless just putting a token CCTV camera in there. Maybe Chris has a view on this.
Can we quickly unmute Chris? There we go.
I am unmuted. Here I am again. Yeah, my opinion on this. Obviously, budgetary restrictions for the council, local authorities won't ease up anytime soon, especially with the current climate. However, what we can do from a policing perspective, where we identify a particular issue in a discrete area, when I say discrete, I mean specific, really. We can apply for rapid deployment cameras to be temporarily installed to address that issue. And that's something the team are looking at fairly well constantly. Unfortunately, with the vast amount of antisocial behaviour across the wards and the borough in general, it's been very hard to pin down one area where we can put a rapid deployment camera within the last 3 months. But it is still an option. The permanent solution, unfortunately, is not within my remit or my gift. But it would be good to have more of the public area covered by CCTV, if any of the councillors feel so inclined to provide us with it.
Thank you, Chris. On a final note, just a point from me, I would be kicked from pillar to post by my community safety team if I didn't mention that we have just put a lot of investment into our online watch link, the neighbourhood watch thing. So the best CCTV in the world are residents looking out for each other. So sign up online. You can richmond.gov.uk. The address may come up in the chat in a moment, and that really is one of the best things you can do to address crime in areas which are not perhaps best served by technology and police that are stretched every which way. And yes, we can have more of these conversations. Thank you for your question.
I had a question for Florian.
Andre, yes.
Quick one, can I interrupt? Sorry. I had a quick question for Florian. When you say you want more of these meetings, we did have one like this last year, but it was a physical one, as it were. It was in St Richard's Church Hall, in St Richard's Church itself. Do you want more online meetings, or are you talking about having these more sort of back in the olden ways that we used to have prior to lockdown?
I do remember that one
in a community centre.
Yes, I do remember that meeting because I actually attended, so thank you for that. I actually meant these online meetings. I think it's great. You get more people, more traction, and it's just, once a week, once a quarter, how often you can schedule it. I think it would be a brilliant idea to get more people involved.
I mean, we do. I think once a week might be challenging for everyone's timescales, and I mean, don't forget the councillors. We do hold ward surgeries twice a month. We do, as councillors, we meet and we are available. Normally the first Saturday of the month when the market is on, the three of us meet, and we are in which is a cafe on Ham Parade. We are there. We are also at Ham Library on the last Wednesday of every month between 5 and 6, or we have been up until lockdown. But I think going forward, it is a good idea. These meetings do seem to be working. I do think turnout is seemingly higher, and I think it allows people from we are quite a disparate ward, gives us a greater number of people a chance to get there. I do think life has changed. I think our norms have changed, and I have no doubt more online meetings will be the norm going forward. I'm sure we can look at that for definite. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rosalind Twite. The slight hiatus is when when my tech people are sort of looking around to unmute the speaker. Rosalind may have been one of the people who were with us earlier, but
I think I saw that she left. I'm pretty sure she's left the meeting.
Has she? Okie dokie.
Yeah, I saw a sign saying coming up above the.
Okay, so
we left, so I don't think she's here anymore.
C. Taylor.
Hello.
Hooray.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for having me. So yeah, I appreciate all you've done for slowing the traffic around Ham and putting in the 20 miles an hour. So thank you for that. I live in Parkleys, and I'm just wondering about the modal filter application we put in for the Barnfield Avenue. There's a sort of road that comes into Parkleys from Barnfield Avenue, and it's often used as a rat run. So we put in an application to have it as a filter, or to close the road, putting in some bollards perhaps. We got around 81 signatures for support, so we're just wondering your thoughts on it and whether you thought it was viable.
Okay, this is something I can't help with. I know nothing about this, so one of the ward councillors.
Yeah, it's not a great. It doesn't have a great number of cars on that road, and it looks. Sort of closing it off would create a sort of really nice place for children to play. I think it's something that we could perhaps raise with officers at the next active travel group and see where they want to, if they can take it from there.
Okay, where did the 81 signatures go to? Were they presented at council, or is it on the council's website, or is it a
Yes, on the council's website. Yeah, so it's with both boroughs, so it's Kingston and Richmond. So it was because we had to get them to put it up on both websites. So it's been quite a lot of sort of activity with both sides of the road, just to try and stop the kind of rat run thing, because they can come really, really fast around the road, but also massive lorries sort of getting stuck around on the corner bit as well.
Yeah.
The ward councillors.
What we can do, yeah, jumping in. What we can do is when the petition closes, I don't believe it has closed yet. Forgive me if I'm wrong on that front. We will look at the number of signatures. We will contact the organiser of the petition, or they can contact us, and we can then put it forward as a group, as councillors at a full council meeting, and we can ask highways officers to look at it like that, and that would be a way to push that forward going through. Personally, I think it's a really good idea. I very much support it, and I know some of the group at Parkleys have been unadjusting. Others at Parkleys have been asking for it. And yes, it is a cut through there that we need to manage. And I think, particularly for the young people cycling through to Greycourt who definitely use that route. Yeah. So when the petition's closed, the three councils will look at it, and we can see it, and we will look to take it to full council and start pushing that along the way, and get highways to look at it and come up with a proposal to hopefully make that happen.
Brilliant.
Okay, those of you who are listening in this evening, if you wish to sign that petition, you can go to the council website, richmond.gov.uk, search petitions, and you will find that one ends on the 4th of September. So you've still got plenty of time to sign the petition, should you so wish. Okay, thank you so much for your question. We're going to move on to Victoria Nurse.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Off you go.
All right, right. I have area questions. So the first one is Teddington Lock, because obviously that links to Ham. So obviously we know that there has been an issue with safety, especially during hot summer days. There's been an increase of people not social distancing. And also more concerningly, because pubs have now been opened, people are drinking and are now jumping into the Thames off Teddington Lock. So there's one, it's more of a concern there rather than a question, and just kind of wondering what's being done to kind of oversee that a bit. So not constantly have a police car next to it, but, you know, to try and encourage people not to do so. So that's kind of one question, is what are the council doing? Secondary to so Teddington Lock, that particular bridge, I found that the stickers have gone out a lot. Cyclists are not supposed to be actively cycling over that. I'm a wheelchair user, I'm also deaf, I can't hear people behind me. But just safety in general, a lot of people are cycling over there, and unfortunately the paint on the Twickenham side anyway, certainly I'm not sure about the Ham side has worn off really badly. So it means that it's not clear to cyclists who need the encouragement that they're not supposed to do so. And at the moment, it's like being bombarded, and it's preventing people from being safe, especially that's a very narrow bridge. So that was kind of my first area. Second area is Richmond Hill, leading up to Richmond Park. Richmond Hill is currently, we already know that the pavements are extremely narrow. For me, I can, with my electric wheelchair, I can get up there because I have been enjoying actually going to Richmond Park because there's been no cars. I've been able to use the roads safely, and it's been amazing. I've never had that freedom to be able to go around Richmond Park because a lot of the paves are gravelled, or there's no pavements at all where it's just grass and you can see the paths where people have walked over. So this is the first time I have had literally freedom to go around the entire park from Richmond Gate, and I can go past every single gate all the way around in the circle. However, getting there safely to the park up that hill is becoming a concern because obviously pubs opening, and also even before that, there's been people that have been able to purchase drinks, not from pubs, but from some of the restaurants there, even though, you know, in plastic cups and that. And it means that people have been sitting on those pavements, not social distancing, and blocking up the pavements, drinking, getting very inebriated. And also cyclists who have stopped to have drinks have ended up parking their bicycles on the other side of the pavements, if that makes sense, meaning it's becoming a huge safety hazard. So both are safety hazards in terms of what is the council doing to try and prevent, especially with pubs being opened more. So that's probably the key thing. Okay. What are the council doing to make things more safe for the general public, not just for disabled people?
Okay. So who fancies these ones? There is the issue of Teddington Lock. Penny, is that you?
Yeah, I'd like to take that one, please, because I'm a pretty regular user of Teddington Lock footbridge, and I'm also I'm a swimming teacher and I teach water safety. So every time I go across Teddington Lock, I'm looking and thinking, oh dear, am I going to have to go in and pull somebody out? Unfortunately, I haven't had to yet. But it is a big issue because I think young people do not realise the potential strength of the currents in the river at that point. Now, during the really hot weather, with the swimming pools being closed, and I just hope they will be open very soon, a lot of people have taken to using those beaches and paddling, and some people have been jumping off, and that is a real concern. And I know the police have taken it very seriously. They've been down there a lot. Park Guard have been down there a lot, and I hope that, I mean, it is a bit perennial that when you get the hot weather. I'm hoping very much that once we get the, you know, with the cooler weather, and once swimming pools start to open again, that we will actually see a lessening of young people taking those kinds of risks. And I know that schools, I think Greycourt School particularly has written round to all the parents to warn in the strongest possible terms to stop their young people from doing that kind of jumping off. As far as a cyclist cycling over the lock, you're absolutely right. Those plates which are put into the roads do need to electrify. And I was thinking that last time I went over there. So I think that's something that we will ask to be done. We put up posters on a regular basis, asking and reminding cyclists of this much, and incredibly, people rip them down, and I think it's so sad. But I know that that there are there's thought being put into how more permanent posters could be put up to try and stop people from continuing to cycle across the footbridge. Gareth looking at his clock. Okay, I'll stop there.
Thank you, Penny. Chris, do you want to have a quick word about anything that the local police are doing about these kids?
Absolutely. Yeah, the issue of Teddington Lock, which Victoria quite rightly raises, is a matter of ongoing concern for myself. In terms of this last little period where we've had an increase of people just enjoying the outdoor space, having been locked down, there was a specialist resource diverted towards that area as often as I could get hold of it, as I was aware that it would be not a flashpoint, but a place where people would congregate rather. My ward team are there on every day they're on shift, as a necessitated actually by the fact they're based in Teddington, not Ham, which is irritating. However, it does mean that we get to check the lock as often as we can and address the issues that are there. In terms of the cycling across it, that is a frustration. It is well signposted. It is something that we can deal with, but it's a very low level offence. And I think most residents would prefer that we spend what little time we have actually on the notifiable offences, the higher offences are present at Ham. However, that's not to say if we see something dangerous we won't deal with it. That leads into my next point regarding Richmond Hill, Terrace Gardens, the surrounding area. Again, I've asked for extra resources to be put into the area with the emergence from lockdown, creating that sort of atmosphere of party and drinking and general debauchery, which everyone seems to enjoy. We've conducted patrols up and down there to address the antisocial behaviour that's been emerging. Unfortunately, the government guidance has now become exactly that. The rules are not written in stone anymore. So our ability to provide fines for those breaching the social distancing guidelines is a bit lessened. And obviously, where there are dangerous points in terms of obstruction on the pavement, obstructions on the highway, we will deal with those as we can. Firstly, by words of advice, but we do have options to arrest and prosecute for those as well. None of those are permanent solutions. However, Teddington Lock is something that will keep my attention for as long as I'm doing this job, I would imagine.
Thanks very much, Chris. Okay, thank you for your questions, Catherine. I'm conscious of the time, so I need to start really cracking on now. So, sorry, Victoria, rather. Catherine Barlow is my next questioner. And it's 5-2, and we've got about 3 or 4 questions yet to go. So, tightness from questioners, tightness from answerers, please.
Thanks very much. Well, nice to meet with everybody tonight. This is a great forum, so thank you for putting on the virtual. Not that I've had enough of virtual life lately at work, but so I live on the Petersham Road. I've lived there for some 20 years in the same house now. I have noticed that the traffic is now absolutely terrible, and with 5 of us all working and learning from home, it's become really difficult. You can't concentrate because of the sheer volume of traffic and the noise. So whilst I do appreciate that there are many people who have a viewpoint that it's a great idea to keep Richmond Park closed to through traffic, for the many of us that live on the Petersham Road and intend to continue to live here, it's really causing our lives, some disturbance now. And also, in the evenings as well, because it's, with light evenings, and because it's been really hot lately and we've had to have all the windows onto the Petersham Road open. And I'm quite fortunate because my house is relatively set back from the main road, but a lot of my neighbours are not. They're right up on the road. And I think there are even more cars, obviously, because of the lack of public transport options. So I would like to know what's happening to apply pressure to the royal parks to open up, because I just don't feel that COVID is an excuse now. And secondly, on the main road, I'd also like to point out that we still have this forever problem of motorbikes screeching up and down the Petersham Road at crazy speeds. And, to the extent that I am now out there trying to catch them on my mobile phone, even if it is 11 p.m. at night or 6 a.m. So I'd love to know, where would you like me to send some footage on this when I eventually get out quick enough to catch them?
Okay. Yes. Is that right? Sorry, I had to
Well, the other one was just also the emergency vehicles. Now, absolutely, we all want an emergency vehicle when we need an emergency vehicle, but that too is contributing to the noise pollution that's impacting our lives, because I think I don't know, maybe because now we don't have our local police stations, but we just seem to have a constant stream of emergency vehicles where, you know, they're using sirens as well. And then just briefly on plastic, with all the pubs and cafes opened up, is it possible to apply some pressure to try and cut down on all of this awful plastic, when we've all tried to do our best to reduce plastic, teach our children about, you know, avoiding single-use plastic, and then, you know, we've been on a litter pick around Ham Common that was, you know, organised by the local team, Jeff Bond and others, and we were just picking up plastic. And I know that's happening across the entire borough. So there must be a way that we can tell businesses, and I know it's more expensive probably to use, you know, the right kind of, you know, plastic, whatever the terminology is. But so those are my 2 points. Thank you.
I think there were 4. So we got plastics.
I'll have 8 on the next virtual.
So we got, who wants to take on motorbikes, zooming up and down, and the volume of traffic with the closure of Richmond Park. We've got the emergency vehicles, and we've got plastics. Brief answers to all of these, please.
The Richmond Park, unfortunately, that is Royal Parks, not us, and we are at the mercy of whatever they decide. We're at the mercy of whatever they decide to do. So yeah, we were very unsuccessful in getting them to open the park to cyclists. It took them a very long time for us to pressure them for that. With regards to the plastic, I think we were making lots of good progress in getting rid of plastic, and now it's all come back. So hopefully we can, when things go back to normal in pubs, we can get rid of we can persuade them to stop using plastic cups again.
Okay, Andre, would you like to add anything?
I think Chris Murphy was trying to say something about motorbikes.
Oh, can we unmute? Can we just keep Chris off mute permanently?
Thank you, that's kind. Yeah, just I could address 2 of those points actually. The emergency vehicles one, I can only imagine how frustrating that is to have the blue lights and sirens going at ungodly hours. However, the Petersham Road particularly, as a blue light driver myself, it presents an enormous challenge because of the lines of sight, and it's often incumbent on the driver to make themselves as visible and as noisy as possible in order to safely navigate it, particularly with it being so busy. I'm afraid that there isn't an easy solution to reducing that noise pollution, nor indeed to stopping the need to use Petersham Road, particularly from a policing perspective. As on the west side of the Southwest Basic Command Unit, it is one of the main roads we're going to be using to move between the Richmond side and the Kingston side. There's no easy fix for that one. In terms of the motorbikes, there have been several operations from the Roads Traffic Policing Command about speeding drivers, riders, and they are doing what they can to address that. My team will do what they can to address riders. The challenge remains that actually they're a lot easier, they're a lot better at getting away than we are at catching them because of the speeds and the manoeuvrability, and where the vehicles aren't necessarily road legal, it's very difficult to trace the drivers or riders afterwards. However, please send whatever footage you do generate to the Met Police. The front page of the website has a link to antisocial behaviour, which you can add footage from driving.
There you are. Andre, I would be appalled if you didn't have something to say about plastics.
Of course I have something to say about plastics, and I know that the council, and I know there have been local groups who've worked very, very hard to work with a lot of the local pubs and say, right, we need to stop using plastics and going to sort of the cups that you find in festivals. I think, unfortunately, that because of coronavirus, we have taken some steps back, and as like Gareth has said, we need to start that good work again. I think it all behoves us as local residents to talk to our pub landlords and to say, this is not acceptable, this is not what we want to see, And again, unfortunately, a lot of this does go back, yet again, it always goes back to the people who are initiating the plastic in the first place, which is the pub landlord, not the pub landlords, but the pub owners, but also in the supermarkets and all the stuff they sell. And it has been a problem over lockdown of waste being just dumped around our bins. It's not an easy answer. The same with the problem of traffic along the Petersham Road and the Royal Parks is not an easy answer. I have spoken to Royal Parks, and I do know that they are about to open to car traffic again in the next couple of weeks, but my understanding is that it will only be during the weekdays, not at weekends, is my understanding initially, and that it will only be certain gates and certain car parks, but that is not set in stone as yet, and that they are currently receiving a lot of communications from people saying, isn't it lovely that the parks have no traffic in? And isn't it great that we have lots of cyclists and people and families out enjoying our parks, and let's keep them for people and only. So there are lots of pressures, and there will be times for people to give their responses and views, because the park will not close. The parks are not planning to close Richmond Park completely to cars without proper consultation, and that is coming, but not at this current time.
Thank you, Andre. Okay, moving swiftly on, we have a question from Daniel and Emily. If we could unmute them. Bingo, there we are. Oh, Emily, we can't hear a thing. You're talking, but we can't hear you. Oh, no. And you waited so patiently.
I think she's got two screens. I think there are two screens, that maybe that those screens have to be unmuted.
I tell you what we'll do. Whilst we sort out that small technical issue, we will come back to you as you've been patient. Beth, are you on the call?
I am. Yes. Can you hear me?
Excellent. Yes, Beth. If you have a question, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Brief. We've had lots of questions on Ham and Petersham, so I want to fly the flag a little bit for Richmond. Two questions was, any thoughts on the state of the high street at the moment? There's lots of empty shops, lots of pop-up shops, and it's bad before, it's only going to get worse during COVID. Just wondering what the state of your thoughts on George Street was. And secondly, you sent us a very good survey around your options for traffic management through George Street. I just wondered what the latest thinking on that was.
Okay, this is technically a South Richmond ward issue, so I will be happy to answer this if the ward councillors may feel. We're still evaluating the various options which are available for traffic management through George Street. Unfortunately, with COVID and such like, we've had to sort of scale back what the officers have been doing and putting them onto frontline stuff. So we hope to be making some further announcements soon. I can't give you a timescale on that, I am afraid. The impact on the high streets is huge, and it's not just related to George Street, it's going to be happening across the borough. Fortunately, we haven't seen too much in the way of damage, as the majority of the borough doesn't have that many chains, you know, all the chains that we've been seeing so much of in the news. But we have just had our Save the High Street style campaign launch, and we are going to be addressing each and every high street in turn. I agree with you. I used to have offices in Richmond Town Centre, and seeing those empty shops is just appalling. But we need to make sure that we can add a bit of pep and oomph into the high street at the moment. Hopefully the measures which are being announced by central government in terms of various funding packages will help. But the best way to help the high street for everybody is to make sure that the shops are being used. Even if it's a chain, we prefer that we're using local independent stores, of course, because those local independents by and large also live in the borough. So it's a circular economy that we've got going on there. But sure, we don't want to see any of our stores failing, so make sure you're using the local shops and not certain online shops, which may sound like certain South American rivers. There. Does that help you, Beth? Sorry, it's not the best answer, but...
No, it does, thank you. And I agree, these are great forums, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, have we got Daniel back yet? Oh no, I'm afraid it looks like we lost them. Let me see, so it was Daniel and Emily. Oh no. Maybe if we can, if the team is listening, we can email them and ask them what their question was, and at least they'll get an answer. So I think Yolanda Bryant.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. This is just a very quick follow-up on what Justine and Catherine were saying about cycling infrastructure. It's probably a question for Gareth Richards. I was just wondering, this discussion seems to have been going on for a long time, and these ideas of improving cycle infrastructure in the area. And I was wondering if there was a commitment on a time frame for a decision on a plan and implementation of that plan, and if so, what is it? And if there isn't a commitment to a time frame for a decision and implementation, when can we expect to see one?
Okay, thank you very much. Very nice, concise and clear. Gareth Richards, if you could be equally so, and I see that you've pressed the mute button. So I say these things.
I got thrown out.
Don't press the mute button. Go on. Here we go.
I got thrown out of the meeting when Virgin Media. Yeah, there will never be a complete plan because we'll never. It's always going to be a work in progress, fixing our roads and our transport network. But we had a very good. We had a very good plan with the Liverpool Neighbourhoods bid, and we'll just try and implement aspects of that as and when we get some finance for it.
Okay. Is that all right, Yolanda?
Yes, it does sound a little bit non-committal and woolly on an area that seems to be I think has to be a priority in the circumstances.
I know some councillors that would take non-committal and woolly as a compliment.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I ask you to sort of, hold our feet to the fire on this one, because you need to push all the councillors, the MPs, and everybody to make sure that we do as best as we can to improve the cycling infrastructure in the area.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Gareth. Listen, it's 8:10. We got through a lot of questions and we got through a lot of presentations. And I think, do you know, I think we started with about 60 people in the chat, and we've still got 49. So I think that we count that as a success. So thank you very much, everybody, for taking part, to our 3 ward councillors for their time and their questions. Thank you, Chris, for being a virtual councillor for the evening and giving us excellent advice from the police.
My pleasure.
I'm sorry that we didn't get round to it. No questions at all about Ham Close. We had the guy from Richmond Housing Partnership here all evening, but no, maybe next time. And of course, thank you to Barty and Leslie, our signers, who've done a splendid job all evening. And of course, to all of the team from comms and who've made all of this work, the level of preparation that goes into one of these things. So they probably all fainted when Florence says, can we have one once a week? But as always on these events, ladies and gentlemen, thanks are chiefly yourselves. Good night.